Vegeta hand control deck, or critical Vegeta, whichever way you want to look at it. This is the promo Vegeta, the Vegeta Furious Awakening. Let's go through the list. Got one copy of the leader, 4 Destroyer Android 15, 4 Android 15 saying hi, 4 Broly Demonic Origins, 4 Vegeta the Cruel, 4 Scythe Goku Black, 4 Dark Temptation Toa, 4 Destruction Champa, 4 E Supreme Kai, 4 Planet M2, 4 Self Absorption, 4 Hidden Power of the Saiyans, 4 Wrathful Charge, and 2 Awakened Warrior Bardock. That's my staple finisher. So, the basic premise of the deck obviously is you're just taking advantage of Vegeta's front side, which has critical, and keep attacking your opponent's leader with crit, and that way they don't get no hand advantage. They don't get anything from you hitting the life. And of course, you want to combo that with the Structural Champa or E Supreme Kai. Get that double crit, so making sure 2 cards don't go to your opponent's hand. So you already took care of that part, right? The life part. Now it's about the hand part. Because every turn your opponent's going to draw a card, and then they're going to charge a card. So they're kind of always never plussing. They're always going up in energy, but they're never going up in hand advantage by just drawing. Unless they choose not to charge, then that'll be the one case where they get to keep the card they just drew. So sometimes they rely either on the leader letting them draw, or their opponent dealing them damage, and then they take a life, and that's the card they'll play, or that's the card they'll charge. So the idea is to control those aspects. So critical, make sure they're never getting any of their life to their hand. If they're charging energy every turn, then that means their draws are useless to them. To a certain degree, of course, they can just draw something good and keep that and then charge something else. But the idea is that they have to make that decision. But you want to minimize that decision. That's the important thing. You want to minimize that decision and make it where they have less options. So that's where the hand control part comes in, where you're playing cards that take cards away from their hand. So we got Android 15. As you can see, this card you play, want to choose a card from the hand, discards it, and then you draw a card. If it was a battle card that discarded, it was 4 or more. The typical thing is most people are going to they're going to try to keep a negate on average, unless it's the graveyard negate, the kind that you can play from your drop area. But typically they're going to keep a negate. Typically they're going to get rid of any 10k combo card. Let me show you one. So you pay 1 10k combo. So typically going to get rid of those because you can't play them without energy for the 10k combo. So they're going to keep stuff like super combos, obviously. They're going to keep any 0 cost 5k combo cards because they're going to probably need it for defense. So on average, they'll get rid of the ones, the 10k combos that require 1 energy, which is what you want them to discard. That way they have less 10,000 power, right? It's always good to get rid of those. So more likely that's what they'll discard, and they'll keep everything else that they know they can easily play. Especially when they see that you're constantly playing cards that make them get rid of cards from their hands. They want to keep the cards they can use. Then another thing is most cards that are 10k that cost 1 energy to combo tend to be some high cost cards like 5 drops, 6 drops, 7, 8, and they tend to be the ones with the really good effects, like Victory Strike or something, right? Those are the ones you want your opponent to discard and never get back. You don't want them to actually keep them, because then eventually they'll play them and they could use it to win. So that's the kind of stuff you're looking for. And again, like I said, since they typically get rid of stuff like that, you can start doing the math in your head of what they have in their hand. And that's the important part. It's not just playing cards, making your opponent just triggering effects and attacking and basic stuff of what you can do and what you have control and what you can see. It's about focusing on what your opponent is doing. Pay attention to what they're discarding from your effects, because that's going to give you hand knowledge. That's going to give you information that's way more valuable than any card effect you can play out. Over here we got, of course, sub-absorption. You want to play this after you deal damage. So if you end up in a scenario where you double strike anything that doesn't, any of the battle cards that doesn't have critical, they're going to end up getting cards in their hands. Well, then you can play this to minimize that. Obviously, a way of negating that, because dealing damage is very important. So you don't always have to deal critical damage. You only have, the leader is the only one in this deck that has critical. So that's where your main critical damage is going to come from. So there might be a point where you do the double strike crit with the leader. Then your opponent, has 4 life, and you want to deal 2 more damage and get him close to kill range for next turn, right? Then that's when you go for, a battle card, give it double strike, and bring your opponent down to 6. And because you did that, now they got 2 cards in the hands they could try to use to make a comeback, right? Or at least defend themselves with. You always want to crit. Remember that, always crit before you deal any regular damage. So always crit, double crit, obviously is even better than regular double strike. You always want to crit before regular damage, obviously. The reason for that is that if you deal somebody double strike damage and they add 2 cards to their hands, on the next attack, especially when the attack is a crit, they're going to block that with the cards in their hands, more likely. So you want to prevent that. So you crit, so they get nothing they can use to block with, and then you go in with the double strike. If they can block, it will have to be with what they already have, not with what you gave them. So you got to take that into account, that your actions have consequences, cause and effect. Just like making your opponent discard and paying attention to what they discarded, because then that's cause and effect, and now you have the knowledge of what they have and don't have. Then of course we have hidden powers of the Saiyans. Make your opponent either you counter a battle card or your opponent discards 2 cards. You win either way. That's what's so great about this card. You win either way. Wrathful Charge, you can defend yourself with, plus get rid of any unnecessary battle card. Sometimes you end up not having a battle card, so then it's just a negate, but the ability to, at any given moment be able to negate and get rid of a card from your opponent's hand is always good. And for 1 energy, not bad. Obviously, when you get your opponent down to 2 life, crit is irrelevant. When they have only 2 life, crit doesn't matter. Then you just go in, and finish them off with any of your double strike abilities, to just finish them off. This is a good card because the leader is both green and yellow, right? It's all the colors except black. You play her with Overwhelm 3. Your opponent, your leader gets 5k because it's green or yellow or both in this scenario. Get 5k power for the duration turn, which is good, and then your opponent chooses a card from the hand and drops it. So it's obviously it's free play because of the Overwhelm 3, so you can play any of your battle cards that when you play them, your opponent discards a card. When you play, your opponent discards a card, and then overwhelm her, and then your opponent discards another card. So it's a way of getting rid of 2 cards off of off of a 2-card play, right? So it's to further reduce their hands, not just to get the hand knowledge, but also to reduce the possibility of them being able to combo. If they had the negate, well, good for them, they had the negate. But if they don't have the negate, they're more likely to have less combo. As long as you combo hard, you will get them double strike crits damage going through, which is your main goal. Planet M2, of course, make their battle leader weaker so that your crit goes through. You always want to do that, especially when you're 10k unawakened, and you're going to be unawakened for a long time because you want to utilize the crit ability before you flip over and then just go for the draw and 15k power boost. I mean the 5k power boost. So you want to use Planet M2, so even if your opponent leader is awakened, you can bring them down to 10k, so that way your 10k critical leader will still put in work, even without boosting or comboing. But if you combo it, just increases your chances of hitting. That's your whole goal. Is every decision you make is to make sure something happens. So if you attack with the leader, you want the attack to go through. If they have the negate, good for them. If they don't, you want to make sure that comboing is irrelevant. That's where all the hand destruction comes in, right? And counterplay, you know, the ability to interact with your opponent, but also be able to make them warp a card. That's always good. And the last thing is Terror Scythe is really nice. Because it's a 3-drop 15k, they could potentially become 25k if you combo the tokens, because the tokens actually have combo power, which is awesome. Noteworthy. He has 5k combo. The tokens have 5k combo, so that's 15k right there. You can give that all to your leader. Here's another thing I forgot to mention was you're not really supposed to attack with the battle cards. You play them, get their effects to make your opponent discard a card, and then attack only with the leader, and then use them to combo with the leader. So you combo them. So the goal is you play them so your opponent loses a card, then you combo them. That's their job. Is one card out from the hand and combo power. That's what they're supposed to do. They're not really for attacking. Unless you're close to beating your opponent, there's no need to attack with them. The whole idea is to mainly focus on the leader doing his thing. Yeah, that's about it. Again, you know, you can use Goku Black's ability to power up your leader. You know, make your leader 25k critical, and then if you throw in a Chamba, for example, it'll be a 35k, you know, double critical attacker. So that's something really cool, noteworthy. But there might be the rare occasions where, you know, you can do Champa and hidden power Supreme Kai to power up the tokens, and then go in for some you know, 5 damage. So think about it, it's 5 energy because you need 3 for him, and then for the copies of Champa and Supreme Kai you need 2. That's an extra 2 energy, and then you have a 15k single damage and 2 20k tokens with double strike. 5 damage in a single turn, so that's not bad if you have the 5 energy to go off and do that. So it's a 3-card combo, 5 energy. You should be able to swing for 5 damage. It's always good to have that in there in general. Plus, when if you have the ability to overwhelm, then you have an extra 20k double strike. So that's an extra 2 damage. So that's 7 damage. So there's potential for 7 damage in the potential 7 damage, but actually 8, because don't forget the leader. The leader is important. The leader is another attacker, so that's another damage. So that's 8. You can potentially do 8 damage in a single turn under the right conditions. And I guess that's everything. Oh, yeah. Obviously, there's a multicolored card. Therefore, this Vegeta cool can cost 2. Just to point that out. And yes, no super combo in this build. If Android 16 was generic, it would have been in this deck. But it's not. It requires an Android leader, and Vegeta is not an Android leader. And that's the end of the video.